Yesterday I was off and I had one simple goal for myself: make one piece of content for my app. And as the day went on, I put it off more and more and more. It started to stress me out more. And finally, by 3 p.m., I just gave up. And I'm a psychologist. I know the mechanics of procrastination and how to overcome it, and I still struggled with it yesterday. Today, I want to talk to you about how to prevent and overcome procrastination. So, first off, why does procrastination happen? And I think at its core, it's just our avoidance of discomfort. We're doing something, or we're tasked to do something we don't want to do. We predict that it's going to be uncomfortable, so we just kind of put it off, put it off, put it off. And it kind of makes sense, obviously. Like, humans don't like feeling uncomfortable. I think it's even more uncomfortable for things that we have to create. For example, if you have to sit down and write a paper, in this case, me, like creating a piece of content, that's difficult because you're creating something out of nothing. But really, anything like, if you wanted to balance your checkbook, if anyone does that anymore, or like doing your taxes, all these things are just going to be uncomfortable because they're either boring or, for me, I find, my discomfort rises if I have to do something I'm not familiar with doing, because I know there's going to be a learning curve and I know it's going to take me more time. And I know that's going to be discomfort. I know that's going to be uncomfortable because I'm going to have to like struggle with it. And again, our brains are lazy. We don't have to want to accept more effort. However, though, if you think about it, like it really took a psychological toll on me throughout the day. Like from when I woke up until the time I actually just gave up, I was thinking about doing this task. Granted, I had some other things I needed to do that day, but however, I think it's important that you have one primary goal and you execute on that goal. My whole day was literally spent thinking about this and putting it off. So I literally wasted a whole day with psychological discomfort. And if you do the math, actually, that's like 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours of the day, you're just spent wasting it. Had I just done it first thing in the morning. And I think that's the most practical solution for me, for handling procrastination, is put the worst first. I don't remember where I heard that from, but it's so true. And you know what? I did it this morning, and wow, surprise, surprise, I felt great. I felt accomplished. I felt a surge of energy. And I would say that discomfort or that anxiety you have about doing the task gets transmuted into, I don't want to call it joy, but positivity, energy. I feel increased confidence, increased satisfaction. I feel accomplished. I did the thing, right? And so I think that's why putting the worst first is a great idea, because you book the win early in the day and everything else is icing on the cake. Now, I know whatever I do today, I did that one thing and I feel good about it. And I get to enjoy the rest of my day. Like, it's a great deal, right? So I got it done at 7 a.m. By 7 a.m. I was done, or at 8 a.m. I was done. And I'll go to bed probably around 10. So now what is that? That's 14 hours. I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor, just knowing that I did it. Also, I think it's just important to execute on the commitments you make to yourself. Because every time you execute on something that you said you were going to do, even though it was uncomfortable, you just gain increased confidence in yourself, increased self-assuredness. Conversely, every time you say to yourself you're going to do something, you don't do it, you reinforce that you're a person that just doesn't do what they're going to say they're going to do. So it's really important to reinforce the things that you want to do, or it's really important to reinforce the qualities that you want to cultivate in yourself. And I think for me, executing on my goals is very important to me, because I know I'm going to feel like shit if I say I'm going to do something and I don't. If there's one thing I've learned about mental health, is my mental health is like a function. Meaning, like, I know if I plug in certain things, I'm going to feel good. Obviously, getting good sleep, adequate nutrition, hydration, physical activity, but doing the things I tell myself I'm going to set out to do, or executing on my goals, I know if I do that, I'm going to feel better. Like, it's one of those important things in my function of mental health, in my equation. So think about, if that's something that's important to you, I encourage you all to put the worst first. Get it over with. Also, too, it's important to do it early on, because I think, your willpower decreases throughout the day. just as a function of your energy. Like I know for me, I have, more energy in the morning. As the day goes on, your energy gets lower, maybe you get frustrated at something. That's going to kind of like, I would imagine, decrease your executive functioning, decrease just your overall ability to execute. And I look at it too, like when I was studying for like GRE or licensing exams and things like that, I had to do it in the morning because I knew I was at my like peak state of cognitive functioning. Granted, so some people are night people, and that's fine too. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, when you do it as long as you do it. However, I'm just speaking from my own experience, like putting it in the morning, getting it done is so huge. Because I will not do it, by like 2 or 3 p.m., I'm spent cognitively. Like I'm not doing anything meaningful. I'll even play like video games sometimes in the evenings and I suck just because like, my gas is empty in the tank, cognitively speaking. Another key thing that I think is important to take away yesterday is, obviously I wasn't happy with myself that I didn't execute on my goal, but I made sure I didn't beat myself up. So what I did was I identified the issue, and that was doing less important things earlier on and keep procrastinating on that one thing. Okay. And then I came up with a solution. Okay. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do it first thing. And then I executed on that and I felt good. And then I can say, great job, me. And so essentially I'm positive reinforcing the things I want to cultivate in myself versus just beating myself up. Because, yesterday, if I just called myself a piece of shit or called myself a loser, that doesn't really help. You can say some people I've had patients that say like, oh, I need to like crack the whip on myself. And okay, if it works, it works. But we know from research, positive reinforcement is the best way to shape behavior. Because we learn the same way rats do. Positive reinforcement. We learn the same way dogs do. If I want to train a dog to sit, I don't beat the shit out of it every time it stands up. I give him a piece of cheese every time he sits, and I say, good boy. And so this is kind of my equivalent of that, of telling myself, good boy. Identifying the problem, identifying the solution, executing on that, and then saying, hey, great job, me. And that's what I encourage you all to do, because I'm sure there's areas, you probably wouldn't be watching this video if there weren't areas you want to improve. So really just coming up with a plan and executing on that plan. Because, I have more free time now than I've had in the past, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on down the road. But unstructured, it's really hard. It's not really hard, but I would say it's harder when you have less structured time. And so for me, another thing too is to create structure. I need structure. I need some sort of I like regularity. I like habits, things like that. And so, to me, it's almost, as I'm talking about this, I'm like, duh, this. But, listen, humans are humans, and sometimes we get off track. And again, it's not about beating yourself up when the train gets off the track. It's identifying how to get back on that track. And for me, it's putting the worst first. So I encourage you all to try that and let me know how it goes.